back into it. So no one was there to see that, except for trying. So what I'm doing is blocking forward, getting my elbow in there. I don't remember if I did that on Monday or not. That's what we're doing now. We're shooting for Mushidori, or whatever comes from that. But I'm also taking, I will take over at the same time. There's a whole lot of reasons why. I'll get to that in a second. Sometimes this arm straightens out. If it does, it's the same thing. It doesn't really matter. The idea is to amass as many options as possible. So, block, over, and their arm will move in a particular way, just depending on the person. So we'll start with this. I don't know where I'm going to go with this. We'll see what happens. So try it. In a more realistic position, you're probably not going to be able to get both of these at the same time. So that's not really what the goal is. I mean, it should be the goal, but I'd be lying if I said this is where you're going to end up in a real altercation. So if you're going through it and something goofs, like this arm just slips out or something, just stick with the one that you do have. Sure, okay? Yeah. So there, I only had almost exactly here, this. If I just lose that or something, I have this still. So we're doing the same thing. I'm just adding a bit more mentality to it. If you get both, that's great, like I was saying, but you don't have to. So keep going for a little while longer on that. You get hit. But like what we were talking about just there, just get him in a compromised position where you can hit probably a lot of different ways. Sorry. With your hand or feet. That was the wimpiest block on my end. What else? If you can walk, you can kick. So just add strikes and do it relatively freely. I just have to make the sound. Oh, that bent. That could have been cool. So yeah, just add strikes. And just when they wouldn't expect it, I guess. Try to keep that loose, because if I tell you when to hit, then one, the person you're hitting knows when they're going to get hit, and another is you're trying to focus more on that. So just, if you see an opportunity to hit and doesn't compromise it, you can just add it. Go for it. So, I mean, you could force your way around into something like this and then mess it up like I did there. Kind of. It's kind of interesting. But, you have to identify what works on people of particular sizes. So here I wouldn't want to go all the way over this and then maybe get something here when it's already there. Granted, I don't have this here just to kind of bring focus here.
The reason to choose Joe's size?
The reason why I chose Joe's is because I can do what I wanted to show y'all earlier. Or easier. So, give me that back. So actually, I did something a little different earlier. I went to the outside, which actually sets up almost a little easier here. Because your hand where it's supposed to be, right? You just take it as it moves. And then you have both. Or I shouldn't say both. You have one or the other. That you can also do at the same time. So let's try this one, I guess. So we're going to the outside because it sets up multi-gut and then just move in, which I guess is pretty risky to get That's, you know, this works especially for people like our side, on someone like him. But give it a try, I guess. I'll just get to it now, I guess. Huh? Yeah. We're going to be throwing an elbow strike. This is weird. Bang, elbow strike. And it's not like, you're not like ripping it in there. You're kind of, it's more like, again, like a body, it's a whole thing going in. Striking gives you more time to do things that you otherwise not have time to do. Bam. Oh, here we go. Oh, bam. And I guess cover that after you're done. You good? Elbow. If they go back like that, then I guess things kind of change. Not really though. Bam. Elbow. And then cover. Because you don't need it. And my knees right there, so I'm just kind of doing this habitually, but things might change. But what I'm trying to focus on right now is that elbow strike, because it'll lead into something that I want to talk about later. So it's kind of free after that point. We get that elbow strike in there. Because it'll go into this. Yeah, just do that. Elbow strike. Elbow strike. That motion, the reason why I'm doing this motion, like we get to this, is it's the same motion as drawing whatever you may have in this position. This time it's a jute, it could be like a knife or something. The other reason why we're doing it like this is because if we were to start with like drawing, it turns into this like whipping motion, and it, I don't want to say changes the meaning because that's too out there, but you're prioritizing doing, like getting this out over causing damage to them, when you may as well do both. You're striking. And then if this comes out, you can do whatever you deem fit. You can even do just the same thing. Because even if you get the weapon out, you don't have to use it. Many people, when it comes to using weapons, oh, okay, I have to focus on getting this thing right now. So bam, and I have to hit them with it. So it breaks everything else apart. I mean, that can happen too. But they lose focus on what they're doing over like trying to use whatever they have. Which I think is good that when we did Kiketsu, sorry, Fudo, he went in specifically and like almost exclusively saying that it's just taijutsu plus a weapon. And that's why you need to think about everything else. Nagase-sensei always says that like, he's always moving it away, like as if he was to be using a sword. And he also says that like, if he doesn't have a weapon, he imagines different links of his arm to be different things. Like this is a hanbo, like, this is a jute, this is a sword. And a way he tends to demonstrate this, I'm kind of going on a tangent here just a bunch, is checking off to the side like this. So there's a move with a sword where like, you can't typically do it this way with a sword, but it's this like sweeping motion to get things out of the way. Also, you can see like here, it's the same way you would check with a sword. So check, and then say if you come out and you can strike, you can work your way in. If you have weapons, you can use those. In fact, I'm gonna go to that because I have more I can talk about there. So what I'm doing, I'm just taking off the side. As if we're moving with the sword. Bam. And you can also keep in mind the direction of the blade here. It's deliberate, it's here. Something that he also talks about is like crosses and how, with or without a sword, if you have crosses, things tend to not slip. Like you could go here and this won't slip because you have like a pretty solid connection here. But if we're here, you also have that same connection. So when you use this to get out of the way, you can generate more momentum based off of the body. Something changed here. Bam. So what we're doing now, I'm completely 180. We're here. Not striking, because that'll happen. Check, bring it out, strike in. You can go into something else. And if you need to, email us at school. One more time. I'll just say. We were talking about this earlier, this idea of like counteracting motion as a means to kind of overtake an opponent. So you can see that like here, with the strike comes in, the motion on this arm is this way, bang. Where the motion on the other hand is coming up in. It's like kind of, it's like perpetually replacing one hand with the other, which is actually something that we talked about before, I just realized. Like if you go one way to meet resistance, go the other. That's for another day. We're here, bang, strike. Here, let's go there. I'll talk about more later. Maybe. Any questions? Philosophical or not? I'll take that as a start. We did this either Monday or Thursday last week. When we're bringing this down, that invites the next punch component. So you have to replace that void space with something, either a punch that's coming or a strike. Quickly. Because if you're lowering the hand, you obviously have to have like some kind of plan. Otherwise, you're just doing it to get hit in the face. Like lowering the fist, their fist, is dangerous. But if you know that, you can use it to your advantage. Bam! Either by throwing a strike before they throw their fist, before they realize that their hand is down, or giving them the opportunity to throw a punch and then doing something else. So to kind of reinforce this idea of like this rotation, bam. And instead of going back through like we do with like you can either continue that rotation like we did with Nagase-sensei here, bam, to here. Or change it. Bam. So that would be going from this rotation here to the other rotation. Bam. Crunch. So give that a try. Or do both. Or see if you can get the diaphragm. Bam! That's really far gone on me, so I don't think I'd try it. Sorry. Okay, yeah, just, I'm gonna leave that there. Bam! Actually, that's kind of cool. Kind of fun than anything else. She punched my elbow. So it was like, I don't think this was ever going to be intentional. Bam, bam.
Nice.
Funny that changes in them. At least for me. And then, whoa, check it out. So yeah, instead of Gatsuki, I'm going to do a, we'll take after. Or if we can, yeah, just do it. Bang. Which isn't wrong, obviously, it changes things. But I think it's a really awful thing. Or over there, to the inside first. Let's see if I can do it. You still have the same thing. And that it's even less work, really, because, like, oh, the next punch is coming, so you just stick your hand and bam! And then, you know, whatever you can get, really. So experiment with it. Bam. Because you're essentially in the same position that you're in before. Like, you're striking in the neck, and you have almost your gut over here. Just make sure the back is checked. You know, with a single finger. Or, trying to remember how we got there. Not this way. That's what we were doing before. Okay. I mean, you can still get over guard and stuff. And then at this point, you can actually check with the elbow. And you got second RE too if you're cool about it. And then you keep it because it's everywhere. Sorry. Just try experiment going to the inside and outside, and even like which way your hands are going. I'm gonna keep this one kind of open. Whether there was the outside or striking this way, which gives you like opens up a whole different way of moving. Yes, it's experiment.